Dear Mom and Dad, we are having the most incredible time in the beautiful Amalfi Coast. Everything about this place is magical. The views, the food, the landscapes. We even discovered some hidden secrets along the way. We have so many stories we can't wait to tell you. The memories we've created will stay in our hearts for a lifetime. We miss you and the children with all of our hearts, but we may stay here just a little bit longer. Sending you all our love. Please kiss the children for us. Ti amo. This is our second time visiting the Amalfi Coast in 8 years, and as much as I would love to romanticize it as I did in the intro of this video, I have to be honest. The Amalfi Coast has become one of the world's biggest tourist traps, and here's why. With the rise of social media, glorified influencers taking over the main towns, and the endless revolving door of tourists arriving every few minutes by land and sea, the main towns along Italy's gorgeous coast have lost their magic. So the big question is it still worth it? Visiting the Amalfi Coast is notoriously expensive, especially if you are planning on staying in the middle of all the action, such as the town of Positano. So I'm going to break it down for you and share the good, the bad, the ugly, as well as some incredibly helpful tips on how to get the most out of your vacation and avoid the dreaded tourist traps, because trust me, there are a lot of them. If you're looking for a cookie-cutter guide of the Amalfi Coast, doing all of the touristy things that tourists usually do here, going to all the places you've seen hyped up on Instagram, I'm sorry, but this video is not it. This will be a very unconventional guide that will uncover some of the hidden secrets of the Amalfi Coast most people have never seen before, and is guaranteed to give you an experience you will never forget. There are truly some magnificent treasures and much less touristy things to do so you can get the most out of your time here. So I've organized my recommendations by 3 categories. The best way to see the Amalfi Coast, the best things to do in the Amalfi Coast, and the best food in the Amalfi Coast. One of our favorite ways to see the Amalfi Coast is by car. Driving in the Amalfi Coast is not for the faint of heart, but if you have the bravery of my husband, of whom I'm convinced must have been an Italian in another lifetime.
I think you were like an Italian in another lifetime or something.
And are a very skilled driver, this is a great way to experience the beautiful scenery and see the magnitude of the mountains and the cliffs up close and personal. The roads are very narrow and there are no traffic lights except for the occasional surprises along the way, so you have to be on high alert at all times and have very fast reactions.
It's like driving in the middle of the road.
Adding to the already not ideal driving conditions here, there are no streetlights to illuminate the roads, so please do not drive here at night. We made this mistake the first time we drove along the coast, and it was a heart-palpitating experience to say the least. Other obstacles to anticipate are mopeds, people, lots of people, and large buses trying to pass through very tight spaces and around hairpin turns and bends. So be prepared, but the views and the journey are 100% worth it.
Driving here is no joke.
This time around, we rented our car from Sixt, which is a company we have been using recently every time we travel and need our own car. This is not sponsored. We paid for the car with our own money. I just wanted to make a genuine suggestion for anyone anyone who's looking for a good, reliable car rental company, and they also have a great selection of cars to choose from. We picked up our car straight from the airport in Rome, where we took a direct flight in from Toronto, and we decided to make the 3.5-hour drive from Rome to Positano ourselves. We explored all the options for transportation and decided that this would be the most cost-effective and also the most enjoyable way to get to our destination. Our car rental cost us about 300 euros for 5 days versus if we were to take multiple trains, buses, or a taxi to get to Positano, it would have cost a lot more to travel both ways for 2 people, and it would have also been a lot more cumbersome to lug along all of our suitcases with us. We also knew that we wanted to use the car during our time in Positano to go to Ravello for a day, so this was the most sensible option for us. If you decide to use Positano as your hub like we did, I highly recommend dedicating a full day to a beautiful scenic road trip along the coast and stop to see the famous Fornillo Beach, Grotto di Esmeralda, have lunch at Degli di Apostoli in Amalfi, and explore Ravello. This was the road trip that we did the first time we were in the Amalfi Coast, and I'll insert some footage from that trip here. And it was also one of the highlights of our trip. Since this time Mother Nature wasn't so kind to us, we decided to drive straight to Ravello from Positano without stopping. It is by far my favorite town in all of the Amalfi Coast, so we didn't mind getting to explore more of this dreamy, picturesque town, and somehow the weather made it even more moody and romantic, if that was even possible. The second of our favorite ways to see the Amalfi Coast is by boat. It's one thing to be driving along the mountains through the tunnels and over the bridges. It's a completely different experience and perspective to see how all of these magnificent mountains and cliffs have been connected together by the thoughtful preservation and architecture created by humans a couple hundred years ago. It blows my mind every time and is one of the features I love so much about the coast of Amalfi. So we were celebrating 2 very special occasions on this trip. The first being our 10-year wedding anniversary, and the second being my husband's 37th birthday. So we decided it would be fitting to celebrate with a private boat tour, which we organized using Blue Star Positano ahead of time over email. Again, this is not sponsored. We paid for this excursion with our own money. I just wanted to mention that they were really great to work with, and the boat was very clean and well kept. They were very professional. We started our tour in Positano and went all along the Amalfi Coast until just before the town of Amalfi. Our guide pointed out some significant landmarks and towns to us along the way and let us play our own epic Italian music playlist that set the perfect tone and vibe for the experience. And we just coasted along for about an hour and a half, appreciating the breathtaking views all around us, just the 2 of us and Felipe. It was magical either way. And normally we would have also been able to enjoy the gorgeous sunset on our way back to Positano because this was supposed to be a sunset boat cruise. But as you can see, Mother Nature was feeling very moody again. Nonetheless, it was still breathtakingly beautiful. Another boat trip I would highly recommend is taking a private boat or taxi boat from the port of Capri to see the grottos and the famous Faraglioni arches, and stop at La Fontellina Beach Club for lunch and a rest to admire the views from that point of view. We did that experience on our first trip to the Amalfi Coast, and it was another highlight of our trip. The third way to see the beauty of the Amalfi Coast is by foot. This is not the place for high heels or uncomfortable shoes. I just wanted to give you fair warning. Whether you're walking in Positano, Capri, Ravello, Amalfi, you are sure to be doing a lot of walking.
A few more steps and then you get rewarded.
Walking uphill, walking downhill, walking up steps, many, many, many steps up, and of course, walking down steps, many, many, many steps down, because whatever comes up must come down.
There's a reason nobody else does this.
Just when you think the stairs are over, there's another round of stairs waiting for you.
This time around, we were much more prepared for the amount of walking and stair climbing that we would have to endure, but you are still guaranteed to come home with battle wounds all over your feet. So don't forget to bring a box of Band-Aids or two. And if you come home from the Amalfi Coast with perfectly pedicured feet, that's a telltale sign that you haven't seen anything. There are certain places in the coast of Amalfi that you can only get to by foot, and they are so beyond worth seeing. So don't deprive yourself of this experience, because I promise you, you'll be rewarded with spectacular views and natural wonders that will hold a special place in your heart forever.
Did you hear that, guys? Do the hike. Don't think twice.
In this part of the video, I'm going to share with you some of the hidden secrets of the Amalfi Coast most people don't know about. These are the things that are guaranteed to be the highlight of your trip and are the least touristy things you can do. Let's start with Positano. If you are a tennis lover like me and my husband are, you will want to check out this stunning family-owned tennis club called El Settimo that is flush with the mountains of Positano. It has been passed down by generations within the family, and the club has a variety of rackets to choose from and balls to play with, so all you need are your tennis shoes and a partner to play with. As a tennis fanatic, I can't even begin to tell you what an experience it was to be alone with my husband playing on this beautiful court in Positano with no one else around, and the acoustics of the racket hitting the ball and vibrating off of the mountains. It was an epic experience and is something I would love to do again one day. So I did some research on comparable tennis courts in Positano and realized two things. One, there are very few tennis courts in Positano. And two, the tennis courts you will find in Positano are all pretty much owned by luxury hotels, which only allow their guests to use. In order to stay at one of these hotels, the price is upwards of $2,000 a night, whereas reserving a court at El Settimo is only 40 euros an hour. We figured that that was a really good deal. Again, this is not sponsored, just wanted to put it out there and make a friendly suggestion to anyone who would enjoy this experience as much as we did. One of the things I enjoy doing in Positano is soaking up the sun on one of the beautiful beaches. Not many people know that Positano has a few beaches to enjoy. Most people just go to the main one by the port, which is always overcrowded, noisy, and just not a good vibe at all, despite all the glamorous pictures you see on social media, which are almost guaranteed to have been captured at an unreasonable hour when most people are still asleep. I can promise you this is not a realistic representation of reality. So if you want a more authentic and relaxing beach experience in Positano without having to wake up at the crack of dawn, go to Fornillo Beach. It's a short 10-minute walk from the port, and the views along the way are absolutely incredible. To rent 2 lounge chairs on Fornillo Beach is 60 euros as I am making this video, but you can usually negotiate a lower price with some warm smiles and kindness. The staff are so lovely there and very accommodating. It always makes the experience so much better. Fornillo Beach is also nestled in a beautiful little cove with spectacular views of the sea. And if you peek behind a cliff on the left-hand side of the cove, you will see the gorgeous town of Positano without any of the crowds. If you want even more privacy, you can take a boat to Arienzo Beach Club. Personally, I haven't had the opportunity to go there yet because they were closed during the time we were visiting, but I have heard from a few of my very trusted friends that have been there that it is definitely worth the trip. Another really great private beach is the beach adjacent to the famous De Adolfo restaurant. This restaurant used to be notorious for being impossible to get into, and you could only get there by boat, but we did manage to have a lovely lunch here last time we were in Positano, and then we relaxed at the beach next to it, and it was a perfect lazy afternoon well spent. One thing to keep in mind is that all the beaches here are covered in rocks, and if you're not used to it, it can be very uncomfortable and painful to walk on with bare feet, especially when the rocks get very hot from the sun. If you want a more pleasant experience, I would recommend bringing water shoes to the beach to protect your feet. Not the most glamorous, but definitely practical and functional. If you decide to visit my personal favorite town of Ravello up in the mountains, you must visit Villa Cimbrone. It is a stunning villa situated on the mountain with spectacular views of the sea, and at the end of the gardens there is this dramatic terrace lined with these intricate statues that is like nothing I have ever seen. It is beautiful and feels like it could be a scene from an Italian movie. It will truly take your breath away. There's also a Michelin star restaurant on the property and a hotel, so you can choose to stay here or dine here depending on your preference. Personally, we did neither, but I have heard from trusted friends that have that it is just out of this world. After Villa Cimbrone, you can visit Rufolo Gardens, which is a short 10 to 15 minute walk from Villa Cimbrone and is definitely worth exploring. There are beautiful gardens and window views from the different viewing points of Ravello, and you can walk to the top of the watchtower to see the 360-degree views of Ravello. One of the things I love about Ravello is how high up it is in the mountains in comparison to the other towns along the coast. It is so high up that on cloudy days, you feel like you are walking through the clouds. It is also so rich with greenery, vegetation, and a variety of different flowers and plants. You will also find many beautiful ceramic factories scattered all over the town and all throughout the Amalfi Coast, as this is one of the things they are most famous for. And limoncello. Whenever I'm in the Amalfi Coast, I always make sure to check out Ceramica Assunta. It is the largest handmade ceramic manufacturer here, and their pieces are always of the highest quality. This is probably one of the only touristy things I recommend doing because I am a sucker for bringing home sentimental things from our travels that remind me of our time together, and Ceramica Assunta definitely knows how to make the highest quality pieces. If you want to see one of the most magnificent views of Ravello, you have to go to the Belmond Caruso Hotel. They have a restaurant and bar that you can enjoy a meal at, or even just dessert and coffee like we did, and you will feel like you have the views all to yourself. The property of the Belmond in Ravello is also insanely beautiful. This is where I would stay next time I come to the Amalfi Coast, and it truly feels like heaven on earth.
Are they crashing along? I think we should probably get out of here.
Capri is an island off of the coast of Amalfi and is a short 40-minute speedboat ride away from the port of Positano. In my opinion, Capri has become the place to be seen and is not really my vibe. The port of Capri gives me a lot of anxiety, if I am to be honest, and the main square and Via Camarelle are one of the biggest tourist traps in my opinion. But there is a lot of beauty outside of these touristy things you can see and enjoy. The first thing being taking a private boat to visit the grottos and enjoy the Faraglioni arches like I've already mentioned, and also enjoy some R&R at La Fontalina Beach Club. Since we already experienced Capri from the sea last time, we wanted to do something different during this visit. My husband and I are always looking for ways we can enhance our experience in unconventional ways, and so we did. We noticed there were hundreds of people lined up to take the cable car up to Anna Capri to admire the views of the island from there. Some of them were standing for longer than an hour in hot and sweaty conditions. So we decided to skip the line and go to Hotel Caesar Augustus instead, a hotel we discovered last time we were in Capri thanks to our amazing taxi driver at the time. We took a taxi up to the hotel, and I had reserved a table on the terrace for dessert, and we had the views all to ourselves without the lineups or crowds, and it was perfect. We then went for a dip in the pool, which in my opinion is probably one of the world's most beautiful pools. The infinity pool looks like it intercepts with the sea, and the views from there are breathtakingly beautiful. The hotel also has stunning grounds which you can walk around and explore, and there is hardly anyone in sight. Probably one of my favorite things we did on our day in Capri was the hike to see the Arco Naturale. My husband was exhausted from all the walking and stair climbing from the last couple of days, but somehow I managed to convince him to come along with me on the hike, and he was so glad he did. Don't believe me? Just watch this B-roll.
Yeah, keep saying more. Keep saying how your wife is always right.
Stop rubbing it.
It's a beautiful hike not far from the main square of Capri, and the views along the way make the hike worth every step. When you get up close to the Arco Naturale, you are blown away by the vastness of this natural structure and all of its beauty. It's truly a sight to see, and pictures and videos really do not do it justice. I was considering and reconsidering if I should include this section in the video or not, because some people don't really care much about food and some really do. I myself am a huge foodie. I love being adventurous and trying different cuisines. I feel like food is one of life's greatest joys and pleasures, and I've been to almost all of the Michelin star restaurants in Toronto and have discovered some incredible restaurants in other cities I visit often, such as Miami, New York, and LA. I really do enjoy a good meal that's prepared with a lot of love and attention to detail. Whenever I think about a place I want to travel to, the cuisine is something I really take into consideration. So that's why I was really disappointed with most of the restaurants we dined at during this trip, because I love Italian cuisine. And despite the numerous hours I spent on researching and reading reviews, most places fell short of their ratings, if I'm to be honest.
That's what happens when you don't feed your wife for dinner.
It is also really inconvenient to make reservations at a lot of these restaurants in the Amalfi Coast, because they don't even have proper booking systems set up. So you have to call or email them to reserve a table. And sometimes the only way to get through to them is through Instagram DMs, which makes no sense. So we dined at many different restaurants, from small family-owned restaurants, old favorites, and Michelin-rated restaurants. And what we learned from our experience is, 1, reviews don't mean anything these days, and 2, most high-end restaurants will have subpar food. You are essentially paying for the privilege of dining there. The service and food quality is mediocre at best, and your best bet, in our opinion, is to get recommendations from friends or family or people you know and trust that have dined at those restaurants before. So even though we were mostly disappointed with our dining experiences in the Amalfi Coast, there were a few very notable restaurants that really stood out to us, and we enjoyed a delicious meal prepared with a lot of love and care that I do want to share with you. The first restaurant I would like to share with you is a small little restaurant in Positano called Galli. We accidentally ended up here last minute without a reservation after our Capri day adventure, because we missed our original reservation at a completely different restaurant, and it ended up being our favorite restaurant in Positano. We loved it so much that we brought my sister-in-law and her partner there for lunch the next day, since they were also in Positano on that day, and they agreed that the food was incredible. Galli is also located on the outskirts of Positano, so it is not as busy as the other restaurants that are closer to the center of town, and the views of Positano from the balcony are beyond beautiful. I also wanted to share with you my secret snack that I accidentally discovered here in Positano. We dropped by one of the many markets here to pick up a few snacks on our way to the beach on our first day here, and I found this sliced cured meat called Brasaiola della Valtellina, which is a very specially prepared meat geographically protected by Italy. It is absolutely delicious, and I have searched far and wide all over Toronto to try to find something comparable to that, but without any success so far. I also decided it might be a good idea to combine it with these waffle potato chips, and oh my god, I was not wrong. It was the perfect little snack and became my go-to little bite every day of our trip. I also love the fresh peaches here. I never crave peaches at home, but in Italy, they have a very special place in my heart. They're so sweet and delicious, and it's just like a juicy bite of heaven. During our Ravello day trip, we stopped for lunch at Cucina, which was recommended to me by my brother, who is a big foodie just like me, and everything we ordered was insanely delicious. Nothing pretentious here. It's a very casual dining experience, but everything was so flavorful, fresh, and so satisfying. It was truly one of my favorite restaurants of our entire trip. I do have to give Capri one very, very honorable mention for the best gelateria in the entire Amalfi Coast, perhaps even the world. Okay guys, this little gelateria is located on Via Camarel and it is called Our Beunocore. It is one of the oldest gelaterias that make the best homemade gelatos, sorbets, and other sweets, and it is probably one of the only gelaterias that you will literally be able to smell from a mile away. And that's because the ice cream cones are made fresh and served warm, and when you pair that perfectly prepared waffle cone with the cold, creamy homemade ice cream, it's a match made in gelato heaven. We have tried gelato all over Italy, went to the highest rated gelaterias and the most luxurious hotels, but this gelato experience will forever hold a special place in my heart. It's truly, truly beyond special. If you plan to visit the Amalfi Coast, I hope you use this non-touristy guide to help you plan your perfect trip and make the most of your precious time here. I will leave all of the transportation companies we used, the names and locations of the places I mentioned in this video in the description box for your convenience. Grazie mille for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed.